Hi everyone. I think just on time. So thank you for joining. And so today we have another session on the same theme that we've spoken about in the last couple of sessions, right? Around application modernization. So today we'll be hearing from our SMEs on an actual case and getting into some more details of how they went about addressing a particular use case. And a quick recap. So, in the previous two sessions, we spoke primarily about the business transformation angle, right? Like in terms of how uh, the goals set by organizations from a digital transformation side leads to the respective applications to be modernized, or their platforms to be modernized, or their infrastructure to be modernized, or whatnot. So the whole thing typically leads from that, and that's where we had Christine and Pavitran talk about that, and then we had Dharma and Setu talk about a little more on the different aspects of application and platform engineering and how uh, the things typically go about, right? So leading from that, today we have uh, Adarsh and Santosh to talk about an actual use case in terms of really getting into the details of each of those phases that we highlighted last time, right? And understand the whole journey itself. So I think for getting into those kind of details, I think we have an apt sort of speakers here. So I have Adarsh who heads our enterprise and cloud engineering practice. So maybe I'll let Adarsh introduce himself.
Hi Nidin, thank you. Hello all. Myself Adarsh, been working in Utthunga as an engineering director and heads the enterprise and application business unit. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Harish. So I have Santosh, who is also our technical director for enterprise applications. Maybe Santosh, quick introduction from your side.
Yeah, thanks, Nitin. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Santosh, and I am working as a technical director at Utthunga. So I have been working with Utthunga past 16 years, and primarily working on enterprise application and engineering applications.
Great. So I think with this experience, you will hear about a lot of cases and how, let's say, Santosh and others have solved these kind of legacy problems for customers over the years, right? So I'm excited to see how we can get into some more insights on this particular use case that they'll bring up today. So uh, so let's probably do a quick recap, right? Like in terms of that modernization journey that was highlighted previously. So maybe others, if you can start with a quick sort of overview on that modernization journey and the sort of four-pronged steps that typically go into that whole application modernization journey, then we can get into some real details into the use case that you would want to sort of highlight now.
Sure, Nitin, thanks. Today, as you mentioned, Nitin, we'll be walking through this modernization journey by taking one of our success stories. So typically, one of our customer they came up with a problem statement of not able to scale or manage or maintain their legacy applications, which were built decades ago, and there were a bunch of applications which were related to each other, and they were built under common domain or the platform.
Mhm.
So, what we did is we worked closely with our customer, understanding their problem statement, and we came up with a solution of migrating and modernizing these legacy applications under one single umbrella so that it can be easily managed, maintained, scaled, and so on. So to explain this process, we typically carry forward this in this four phases like assess, mobilize, migrate, modernize, and manage. So today, what we will do is we will be going through each of these phases in detail, taking our one of the case studies or the success stories what we have done in past. So my colleague Santosh, he'll be walking us through the first two phases of the modernization journey, taking an example of a success story, the assess and mobilize phase, followed by I will be walking the audience through the execution or the migrate modernization journey and the manage phase as well. Over to you, Santosh.
Thanks, others. Yeah, so our customer having 10 different applications. They have built those application around 10 to 15 years of time span. And so we have initiated a workshop with the customer that is for 2 weeks to understand the application features and functionalities and the current pain points why they wanted to migrate these applications to latest technologies. And then we used to assess the all 10 different applications, different technology stack used, and then that their different dependencies. And so there are different SQL database they are using. And so we are gathering the information in details to work with the different stakeholders. Okay. Then so the primary concern from the customers why they wanted to modernize their application. Primary concern is scalability, because that applications are built more kind of monolithic and unable to scale up to that demand what user is expecting, that end user is expecting. Okay. And also year on year, so when they keep adding that new functionalities, new features, the application performance also slowing down.
Mhm.
And so another reason is when you when we done the detailed study, so we understand that the UI logic and then the backend are tightly decoupled. Okay,
Mhm.
so if any changes applied in this their backend or the front end, so that is affecting that complete application lifecycle performance. And that developers and test engineers, they are spending more time to troubleshoot and then resolve those issues. And so their application built release process is very complicated, since they do not have any automation test environment for those applications. So whenever they're making small changes, right, or they are going to make some new release, so they have to manually execute the test cases for all the applications. And since these applications are tightly coupled, so one application is depending on another application. If any functionality fault in the one application A, it will impact on application C. So again, they'll spend more time to troubleshoot to identify where is that bottleneck. And so these applications also using the legacy way of communication, that is COM and DCOM, to communicate each other, because these applications are installed different machines, and they are using DCOM as a primary uh, point of communication. And recent days, these DCOM settings is kind of overkilling all the people. So all Windows 10 Defender and antivirus are actively blocking this DCOM communication. So even the end user install the application into their systems, they'll be struggling to overcome these issues.
Mhm.
Okay. And yeah, so um, as I said that there are 10 different applications, and so not all that component not to be migrated from legacy to modern platform. So we have classified application three categories, all the application and components. So one is refactoring. So some of the components are required for 100% refactoring, and some of the components are can be reused with the
Mhm.
small modifications. Okay, so we can able to convert those module as a some microservices to enable with some API communication. So we can able to reuse those modules, because those modules mainly written for compute and calculations. So it will be more difficult to optimize or rewrite the same logic again and again. Okay.
Mhm.
And some of that components can be retained as it is, because those components are returned recent days. And so they can be easily we can convert it and deploy it as a container image, and we can able to make the communication with other libraries. And as part of this assessment, we also identified that the expected risk in terms with technology and security, operational and compliance risk, and we come up with a mitigation plan. And as part of this workshop, so we have created a detailed requirement document and then understanding the business priority. So what applications should be migrated first and what can be delivering to their customer for trial run. Okay, and then so we have come up with TCO reports, and then we also identified some POCs to be carried out to evaluate the technology before customer investing to into that migration process. Okay, also we have created a list of mark components, so which is required to decouple these applications so that so this application development become independent, and we can scale those applications. Also we can able to yeah, we can implement automated test process for those applications. So we don't need actual other component to be there in place.
Good.
Yeah. So next I'm moving to mobilize. So here so we have defined the execution strategy. Okay. So to come up with first we come up with the high level system diagram, architecture diagram. So whereas we have identified list of microservices and a list of APIs and all the different items are required for this modernization journey. Okay. So these services typically based on backend with some technology, whereas some applications are used for data aggregation and some applications are used for data computation and some applications are used for user handling. So based on that nature of the application, so we have chosen different technologies, and we have created as a we have come up with creating as a separate microservices. Okay, and then we also identified the infrastructure which is required for testing, development and trial run. Also we come up with so the required cost for these different stages, and we planned for a 2 week sprint and PI planning for 8 weeks. Okay, so and then we also defined the team structure. So these some unique advantage on our team composition is these teams is self-contained. So we have identified 11 different teams. So they'll be working independently. Okay, they are self-contained. So so they can develop, test, and they can implement test automation everything independently with the help of mock components. So also we have come up with a communication plan and that checklist, so that so what are the reports should be shared on different stakeholders like product owner, business team, and technical teams by daily, weekly, and sprint report. And to enable the communication across the team, so we are using Microsoft team channels. So we have created multiple channels for different layers so that the team themselves they can able to communicate with within the team or across the team very efficiently, so they can able to trace what is happening in other team, so what new features are implemented, so what we can able to use it, so they can easily collaborate and then they can get understanding. And so the next stage is technology selection, right? So these technologies should be futuristic for next 1 or 2 decades. Okay, so as I said that so these applications heavily using rdbms, and so we planning to move them into NoSQL database such as MongoDB. There are multiple reasons because these applications are different backend with a different databases, and so these data are heterogeneous nature of are located in multiple format. Okay, so it's very difficult to manage uh, and migrate them the same nature into our latest platform. So we want to smoothen that process. Okay, so to avoid that all the complexities, so we choose in MongoDB as a primary storage. And that existing application has so many stored procedures they have written, for, especially for their report generation. Okay, so those stored procedures we plan to migrate to Azure Functions. The reason behind these Azure these reports are generated by weekly and monthly. Okay, so we no need to keep on microservice and run all the time. So these Azure functions will be invoked on a demand basis, and so that will be more cost effective for all the report generation and publishing that. And so our customer also not have much exposure with cloud configuration. So to simplify their configuration, so we have come up with single click configuration using a Terraform tool. So where our SME customer SME he can scale up or scale down, or he can increase certain resources by certain clicks. So he no need to go to manually and then configure all the properties. And then for this DevOps setup, so we have come up, we have planned with different type of build, which is for weekly and nightly build and weekly build and then PI builds. And so we also plan to set up different stages of build pipelines, something for static code analysis and then configuration audit, and then to create the container Docker container image upon the compilation. And then so we also defined some set of automation test case execution, so that will speed up that development activities. Yeah, so I invite others to explain the migration and the manage steps.
Thank you, Santosh. Yeah, we can move on to the next phase. So now that as Santosh walked us through the important phases of assess and mobilize, where we understood the requirements in detail and also formed the team structure, the architecture, and so on. Since this is a large migration and modernization programs, so the process becomes as is important as well. So we formed a scrum of scrum teams following the agile process, where each team would be picking up various activities. Like there would be a UI team, backend team, DevOps team, testing team, data migration team, and so on. Each of them will be running in parallel, conducting picking up various tasks and delivering it. So we followed this sprint cycle of 2 weeks, and we would have a demo and follow carry forward all these sprint ceremonies, like product backlog grooming, and defining the task that needs to be carry for taken up by the teams, and the retrospection, and so on. So I'll be walking through like how we actually executed this program. To start with, we started with setting up the dev environment, and then worked on some of the POCs which were identified in our assess phase, to ash out all the possible technical challenges that we may encounter. So one such example, what Santosh also mentioned, is like moving the databases from the traditional RDBMS to Mongo. So since the data is heterogeneous in nature, so we had to try out, build the new collections and map those parameters, and so that kind of small POCs we carry forward, and then we were confident that this solution works. And then while this work is being done, so our DevOps team, which we have formed, were working in parallel in setting up the infrastructure to host the applications, which also included developing the CI/CD pipelines for continuous integration, continuous deployment of these applications into various environments, like that could be dev environment, staging environment, production, and so on. And when we Defining this, we also defined the various pipelines like the nightly build, weekly build, PI build, in order to manage and the releases sprint on sprint or epic wise and so on. So, as I mentioned, since we formed multiple teams which are working in parallel, so each of these teams are working in parallel, carrying their own work. The data migration team, which we also worked on the POCs, started developing various ETL jobs using tools like Pentaho, it's an open source ETL tool, to migrate this large volume of data from different applications that we were migrating, which were accumulated over decades, into this newly built or the designed the MongoDB. So the core team still, the UI or the backend team, where no at this point in time we're analyzing the code, understanding the code base, and as some of the decisions or the strategy that we made during mobilize phase, like retaining some part of the code, re-engineering, or refactoring it. So these were the activities were taken care by the UI and the backend teams. So we converted most of them into services so that there could be a ease of communication. So, and also, as you can see in this, we took the entire responsibility, the end-to-end responsibility from requirement gathering all the way to execution to manage. So, which included setting up the entire infrastructure, and to in the future, to minimize the effort of being put on the infrastructure, we made it infrastructure as code using Terraform, so that we can quickly spin that infrastructure in various builds or the various environments needed. So apart from this, I mean, this is the execution phase, picking up the task and delivering it. So we also came up with a go live strategy, how we'll be going live with our application once that is done. So what we did is we took the few customer data, like couple of customers data, the entire decades of data accumulated for those customers, and we migrated those data, and also the went with application live. And then once this is tested and all, so we migrated the entire set of customer base. So that's how that entire execution we carried, like in with multiple teams working in parallel and having a strict process. So we'll move on to the next phase, like manage. Having said that, we executed a large program, then went on to the go live. The next important stage is after migrating, the managing. So because this is a huge application, so that needs continuous support and manage. So to ensure that there is continuous support and manage, we formed a 24/7 team, where team L1 and L2 would handle tickets, and we formed a dedicated L3 team uh, to handle feature enhancements, issue fixes, managing the infrastructure, creating the training and support documents, continuous monitoring and optimizing the overall solution wherever required, and so on. So doing this entire migration process and the managed process, so our customer were able to report some of the benefits, so of which we already defined during our assess phase. Once we analyze the problem statement, we are listed down some of the benefits that which we will be able to achieve. And some benefits, like they were able to achieve a 70% reduction in the licensing cost, because they had multiple different applications using certain licenses. Now that we have moved these different applications or modernized these different applications into under one single umbrella or single application, so they would reduce that application licensing cost. And they would also enhance the data sharing, because now that it is moved from monolith to microservices, so the data sharing between the applications or between the services, it's much more streamlined. And they were able to achieve the scalability, improved scalability over 70%, as we have moved this to Azure cloud, and they provide the SLAs of 99%, and they also provide the options of auto scaling and so on. and we also were able to reduce their overall maintenance overhead by 50%, because they had multiple different applications hosted on multiple different servers, and which incur cost and also the maintenance overhead. Now that all these applications are moved under single server or no centralized server, so the maintenance of that has reduced significantly. And again, the security, so using a lot of Azure services, we were able to enhance their security features which were not there earlier. We have increased their operational efficiency by 55%. This is one of the major thing, because uh, in real time they would be having no 10 20 10 different applications. The operational cost for each of these applications would be higher. So now that we have moved it, so that significantly improved their operational efficiencies. And since we have used the latest cutting edge technologies, the monitoring, the deployment, so all those were streamlined and were much more easy. So now their release cycle has been improved significantly, where they were taking more than a weeks to release. Now it was like no few days of release the entire program or the product itself. So these are some of the benefits of migrating or modernizing the legacy applications. And we would carry out this kind of large legacy application modernization in multiple phases, measuring and measuring the outcome in each phases and executing them. So with that, I would like to conclude the modernization journey with one of our success stories that we had executed with our Fortune 500 customer, Fortune.
Great. Thanks, others. Thanks, Santosh. I think very detailed in terms of how the four stages that were highlighted in terms of how you went about this, right? And I think a lot of the audience can look back at the whole thing in terms of how you went about, and as well as explain the different aspects of each of those stages. Definitely a lot of insights and value there. So I think just wanted to add a couple of things to this, right? So as part of our application modernization services, typically, as you know, we quite often than not deal with like a consulting-led initiative. So wherein our SMEs typically work with customers on identifying the real sort of pain points and the problem areas and how to sort of go about them. And so typically the assessments come about, right? And that's what Santosh highlighted in this particular case. So we do offer like a free consultation workshop for 2 days, which includes our SMEs and architects to do like a high level assessment, right? Like in terms of your current scenario or the application's present situation, and and accordingly propose uh, like a use case based solution approach, right? This takes into consideration different aspects to those benefits that others highlighted, be it cost or timeline or technology, skills, and whatnot, right? Like so, taking all those into consideration, we typically offer like a consultation workshop for a couple of days. And if you guys are keen, I'd highly recommend you sign up for something like that. And we'll put in a link on the comment section. So feel free to register for that. And again, it's a no obligation consultation workshop. So I'm sure Adar, Santosh, and his team will have a lot of value in terms of how we can help you in your modernization journey, right? So I think just on the dot here. So thank you again, Adarsh and Santosh, for the
Thanks.
insightful
Thank
points
you.
as well as this session. I think it very well sort of aligns with what the previous two sessions came about, and how you guys spoke about this in a little more detail. So we also have a detailed uh, approach note or a case study on this particular use case that was highlighted. So we'll put in a link to that as well that you can refer to. So so I think until next time, stay tuned, and we'll be back with another session. And for now, thanks Adesh and Santosh, and we look forward to some more insightful sessions with you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Nitin. Thanks
Thanks
for this
everyone.
opportunity.
Bye.
Thank you all.